In a galaxy far, far away, there once was a psychic that likes to psychoanalyze people for the funsies. Hello, my name is Emily Perez, and I will be psychoanalyzing Anakin Skywalker's character and breaking down how his borderline personality disorder led him to the dark side. So sit down and eat popcorn and enjoy. Alright, so first things first, we're going to break down what borderline personality disorder is. I'll link all the sources down in the description below so you can see what I'm talking about and stuff. But I'm going to use basic definition for website from Healthy Gamer. He's a famous psychiatrist, talks a lot about borderline personality disorder. Definitely recommend checking him out. He's better at explaining this than I do, but I'll explain what it is. So basically it's this mental condition marked with unstable moods, intense emotions, and deep fear of abandonment. So they have a very black and white thinking. So don't confuse this with bipolar. It's very similar. The difference of bipolar is more maniac episodes. The borderline is more like you do have mood swings of intense, like all of a sudden intense fear or like intense joy, but it's more like caused by trauma. So it's very trauma induced. You can have bipolar and borderline to like overlap, but that's like a whole other story, another can of worms I'm not going to unpack. I'm just going to focus on BPD, borderline personality disorder. Another factor of that I guess makes it different from bipolar is, think of it as mostly lack of emotional regulation. Bipolar is more of like, you know, you have also a very depressed episode, and also you're like doing so much, like overworking yourself, right? That's when you think bipolar, like mood swings, like crazy mood swing, maniac episodes. Well, there isn't necessarily like that. It's just emotional swings caused by like a lot of triggers, trauma triggers. Is very, I guess the basis level is trauma. So how does this relate to Anakin? We're gonna get to that. So I'm gonna also break down Anakin's character so we have an idea of who he is. So Anakin is from this planet called Tatooine. He was a slave. He had his mother, only had his mother, and basically had just he didn't had a father figure or anything. So this kind of goes into it. So he had a lot of, I guess in a sense, already since a level of trauma as a child, as being a slave and seeing how these slave owners treated his mother. And then not just that, after from a young age, leaving his mother to go with these Jedis, and all of a sudden losing Qui-Gon in a way, just dying. And then obviously he's left alone. It's like, oh crap, I left my mother, and then all of a sudden I left this guy that was supposed to train me and take care of me now dies. So that's like, as if you think of it in a psychological level, it's very detrimental, like as a child, like already just separating with your mom, young age, and then all of a sudden seeing people die. It's like, oh wait, so people are leaving me. And so when he was older, then you kind of started to see these symptoms going on. He goes back and finds out his mother was dead. He had these dreams that his mother died. So then this kind of starts, you kind of see this build-up of like Anakin's fear of being abandoned. He's already felt abandoned as a child, which kind of goes into the idea of borderline personality trauma induced. And has these like outbursts of anger and unhappiness. And you see this, how he acts with Padme a lot, how he's like, I killed the children and the woman too, because out of like all of a sudden he just felt abandoned. Also like the sparks of anger just like it just switched, it just triggered him. Like I said, they see things in black and white. So that's like another thing which leads to the other aspect, which is emotional dysregulation and impulsivity. So he just does impulsive things that he does a lot. You see him like when he's like that one scene where he talks about the wanting, having the ranking of the master. He also has this outburst when he said like, this is outrageous. He's just already like, the switch turns on, like it's like it's. So what happens with people with BDP when you say things like, oh, we don't want you to do this? In their minds, in black and white, it's like, oh, we don't want you to give me this job offer. In their brain, it's like, oh, so you don't want me, you don't like me, you don't, like, they just immediately turn things very black and white in this sense. And which makes sense how, like, how Anakin would be like, oh, so you don't want me to make a master, and all this outburst. He's like, this is outrageous, you don't want me. And then Anakin's like, wait, hold up. And then, like, this is just a cause of, like, a lack of emotional regulation. He didn't have this being taught. Remember when he was separated by his mother and having his mother die, and then seeing Qui-Gon die, and there's just like a lot of separation anxiety already building up to this level. And so then he has this intense fear that consumes him a lot, losing Padme, which leads into the aspect of like also a very important turn into how he goes to the dark side. So like how he just turns like these outbursts of anger. Because one thing of fun fact about the dark side that we know, assuming that you've seen Star Wars, you would have these people in like the dark side of the Force, according to Darth Sidious, and like the art of just being using the dark side of the Force. You use your passions. Compared to the Jedi Order, they use mostly, they try to detach themselves. It's like a lot of like Buddhist ideas. They try to detach themselves. It's more being selfless and helping others. But here they use their passions, and obviously someone BDP, they see things black and white. They will be like, oh, I want to go and take this. So BDP will be like, I love you so much, I'll do anything to keep you and for you to love me, since I wasn't loved the way I should in his brain. Or like, I hate you so much, so I'm gonna do anything to destroy you. So it's like you see these very self-destructive behaviors that's going on. So then you see these concepts like of identity issues going on in Anakin's brain and confusion, because someone with BDP would have a lot of identity crisis, because they either, once again, going back to the same point, black and white thinking, you love me or you hate me. And so seeing this dramatic way how Anakin, and so he just lets these emotions, intense emotions, driven him. So it's like a normal person, emotion regulated. You might be mad, but you will regulate them. Okay, let me breathe. Let me step back. Let me not act onto it. Let me reassess everything. And then you think things more logically when you, instead of like letting your emotions drive your actions and just impulsive behavior, right? So it's just more of like a steady flow. But with someone BDP, there's a massive rapid flow, just emotions, like one swing to the other swing and to the other swing. So I guess to wrap things up on this, you can see how all these BDP traits that Anakin has, black and white thinking, identity issues on regulating his emotions, his fear of abandonment, all that just adds up of just like, I'm going to the dark side, right? I'm gonna use these passions of the dark force to do that. And so that basically led him into going to the dark side and use this, and like basically the BPD hopefully I said that right. BPD, borderline personality disorder, basically flourishes using the dark side of force. I will give a disclaimer. I don't think George Lucas had all of these intentions whatsoever, or did deep research on the medical aspect of how Anakin uses this, how Anakin has a borderline personality disorder. I don't think that was his intention, but even though according to DMS5, like I'll have a link in description of DMS5 and another video talking about, I guess, a really good analysis with actual psychologists explain this of Anakin's BPD, how it affects, like, he basically has BPD if you look at it on a medical lens. Obviously, once again, don't think George Lucas had that intention, but he's such a good example of how he has BPD, and it honestly connects. Like, honestly, if you watch these movies with no knowledge, thinking about why would someone just also go to the dark side just to save someone's family or something like that? Well, if you look at it in his childhood, if you look back, looking at his childhood and how he was upbringing and everything, then you see how it all connects. Like, oh, that's how he got to the dark side. He didn't, like, a normal person wouldn't just go to the dark side. There has to be something wrong in your brain. Like, think of, like, psychopaths, they don't just kill just because something is off in their brain chemistry. So in this case, Anakin's brain chemistry was a little off, especially what you dealt in the childhood is not necessarily normal whatsoever. So it makes sense why we had fear of abandonment and just assumptions of, like, emotional dysregulation, thinking, okay, I was abandoned, so therefore I have to do this and that. So it all connects together. So once again, thank you for watching this video and sitting this through and understanding that he's not just a villain, but mostly like a victim of what unfortunately caused him. At the end of the day, a lot of villains just end up being victims of whatever happened. That there's always a cause and effect to all these things. So as we look and analyze Anakin's character, someone who's just simply just hurting, desperate for love and control in a world that constantly rips those things away from him and hoping a way to find them, but obviously let his passions driven him control. So thank you for watching, and I hope this was insightful to all my Star Wars nerds and psychology geeks. This is useful, and also have a different lens when you look at different characters. Alright, thank you.